I'm getting a thumbs up, so I think we're going to try again. So we did the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have the clerk of the board read the public participation procedures.
Would you like me to start from the beginning?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Thank you.
Due to the high level of community transmission of the COVID-19 virus and in an effort to protect our employees and the community, the Board of Supervisors chambers will be closed to the public. Citizens who wish to provide remote public comment via Zoom may use the raise hand feature on their computer or press star 9 if participating by phone to enter the queue. The moderator will read the last 4 digits for phone-only participants in lieu of name. Zoom webinar via your computer at https://twami-ca.gov.zoom.us/j/833-3099-0337 and or phone at 1-720-707-2699 with webinar ID 833-3099-0337. Note, Zoom webinar services tends to have a reduced broadcasting delay in comparison to the Access Tuolumne live stream and is suggested for the closest to real-time viewing and listening. Options for public access audio and video live streaming. The public will not have access for public comments via these media options. They are available for audio and visual only. Option 1, Tuolumne County website at www.tuolumnecounty.ca.gov/board-meetings. And Access Tuolumne at www.accesstuolumne.org and click Watch Live and or Comcast Cable 8. Important public notice pursuant to AB 361, members of the Board of Supervisors can participate by teleconference. Accessibility requirements. If you need Swift special assistance during the board meeting, please call 209-533-5521.
Great, thank you. All right, so we're going to open this time up for oral communications. We have about 15 minutes set aside. So obviously nobody in the room, but on Zoom, if you would like to Zoom in and comment on anything that is not on the agenda, again, anything that's not on the agenda, you have 3 minutes. At the 2-minute mark, you will hear a beep, and then at the end of 3 minutes, we do have to cut you off. So please keep it to 3 minutes so I don't look like a mean person here. And we are listening. We always look forward to hearing from the community. So with that, clerk of the board, do we have anybody on Zoom who has any comments? No one's raised their hand. I'm going to give it about 20 seconds just in case people are having technical difficulties. Oh, and we do have a public comment in the room. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and lead us off while we're waiting? And if there is anybody else in the room with public comment, come on up. Go ahead.
Just want to say how amazing and proud it is as a resident in Tuolumne County. Last night, my family and I got to watch the Olympics, and a young woman by the name of Keely Cashman raced a first ever Olympics women's downhill, and she finished 17th last night. First U.S. woman, the fastest U.S. woman to finish. She even finished faster than Michaela Schifrin. I've watched this little girl since she was young as a Dodge Ridge National Ski Patroller and a parent of other racers at Dodge Ridge. I watched her when she was 5 and saw how amazing she was, and I think we should celebrate her success, and it was amazing to see her on TV. So thank you.
Thank you, Dory. I was watching that too. I got lots to say, but I'll wait. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Nobody on Zoom? All right. Well, I will say it real quick. I saw Keely. I met her, I think, when she was 3 or 4 years old, because I used to ski with her cousin, Willie Schneider, over in Mammoth. And just incredible to watch that young girl succeed. And what's crazy is the narrators are like, yeah, if she just buttons this up and this up, she'll be basically on the podium probably in 4 years. I mean, talking about a 1.5 second difference between first place and 17th place. So she's on the right track. So Keely, if you're listening, you rock, and community supports you. Okay, with that being said, since we don't have any more oral communications, we are going to open it up to staff reports. So this time, if staff, whether it's in here or on Zoom, has any reports, and if there are, I just got to remind the board, including myself, that we're not supposed to ask questions or really make any comments during that time because it's not in the agenda. So that being said, is there any staff comments or staff reports? Not seeing any. Wow. It's going to be a record here. Everybody wants to get home. No? Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, Clerk of the Board, would you please read the consent calendar?
Okay, item 1, approving the minutes of the February 8, February 9, February 10, and February 11, 2022 meetings. Item number 2, approving the appointment of Johnny Tuck Briggs to the Tuolumne County Commission on Homelessness with a term to expire August 10, 2023. Item number 3, approving Resolution 20-22, authorizing the submission of the Wildfire Recovery and Forest Resilience Grant to Sierra Nevada Conservancy in the amount of $5 million and authorize the county administrator to sign future grant-related documents. Approving Resolution 21-22 in support of Cal Recycle's SB 1383 Local Assistance Grant application for implementation of organic waste reduction regulations. Item number 5, approving Resolution 22-22, designating County Administrator, Assistant County Administrator as authorized to execute for and on behalf of the County of Tuolumne for grant applications to Cal OES for fiscal year 2021 EMPG-ARPA.
All right, I'm going to look to the left and right. Does any member of the board want to pull any of the items for consent? Comment? Any pulls?
Comment as well.
Okay. So why don't you go ahead? We'll start with Supervisor Brandon.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to comment very quickly on items 2 and 4. Item 2, appointment of Tuck to the Commission on Homelessness. I've gotten to know Tuck up to trips to Resiliency Village area. He's an example of somebody that has accepted service, who is working to try and get better, who is helping people. And I think that's just going to be such an important voice to have when we're addressing this issue, as somebody that's on the ground there. So I'm very excited about that. And then with SB 1383, I just wanted to remind members of the public, I know that some saw that vote of us trying to delay the implementation of that as not having support for this type of a program. I just want to say that this is the steps that happen in between to make sure that we have the infrastructure, the services, equipment, the staffing, all ready to go for it. And so that it is being able to move around or move forward with grant applications to have the funding to build what we need to make it a success. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to comment on item number 2 as well. Tuck. Tuck Briggs has been homeless for a pretty extended period of time. He's been currently residing in a successful program at Resiliency Village. And he wanted to join in on this effort, and being on the Commission for Homelessness, I'm really glad that he did, and that I support his application. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, then I'm going to look for a motion for the consent calendar.
A motion. Oh, public comment.
Big Blue. Any public comment on any item in consent? Not seeing anything in the room. Anything on Zoom? Not this time. Okay, if you're on Zoom, I'm going to give you about 15, 20 seconds to deal with any technical issues. Do we have anybody on Zoom, period? Okay, just making sure. Okay. Any hands raised there? Okay, then I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. I believe Jaron motion first.
Oh, yeah, motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Ooh. Rock, paper, scissors?
I don't care.
We can give it to her.
Kathleen, ladies go first. All right, so I got a first by Jaron. I got a second by Half. All those in favor say aye.
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 And so passes 5-0. All right, Clerk of the Board, would you make sure we don't have any appointments? Nope. Would you please read item number 6?
Consideration of approving the plans, specifications, and bid book for contract number 1629, Big Creek Shaft Road over Big Creek Shaft Bridge replacement, and issuing a call for bids to be due on March 17th, 2022 at 2 p.m.
Good morning. Blossom Scott Himes, Supervising Engineer with your Public Works Department.
In 1998, the Big Creek Shaft Road crossing Big Creek Bridge, bridge number 66, was listed on the Caltrans eligible bridge list, qualifying it for replacement. In 2010, the county applied to the FHWA for funding under the Highway Bridge Program to replace the bridge, and we were authorized to begin preliminary engineering in 2013. The project received NEPA in 2017 and CEQA shortly after. Final design was complete in early 2018. Right-of-way was complete in October of 2019, and permitting began in 2020. The design update was performed in 2021. The project proposes to replace the existing 50-foot long and 12-foot wide railroad car bridge with a new 85-foot long and 20-foot wide two-lane bridge on an improved alignment, just east of the existing bridge. The new bridge will be cast-in-place concrete slab, 3-span structure, featuring standard bridge railing and approach guardrail. The existing bridge will be removed after completion of the new bridge. Construction is expected to begin in spring 2022 and take 1 season to construct. The engineering division will utilize a consultant construction management firm to provide oversight and daily inspection. The project is currently budgeted in the fiscal year 21-22 budget in the amount of $16,131. The county has received authorization for construction in the amount of $1,712,741. The project is 100% funded through the Highway Bridge Program, and no local match is required. The environmental coordinator for the County of Tuolumne has determined that the project is categorically exempt from review under CEQA, pursuant to Section 15301, because the project consists of minor alterations of an existing county road facility involving negligible expansion of use, and none of the exemptions listed in Section 15300.2. It is recommended that your board approve the plans, specifications, and bid book for contract number 1629, Big Creek Shaft Road over Big Creek Shaft Bridge replacement, and issue a call for bids to be due on March 17th, 2022 at 2 p.m. Any questions?
Yeah, I have one. So, do all bridges take this long to execute? When all is said and done, this is going to take how many years?
It should be done by the end of 2022.
Right, but the process started way back in what year?
2010.
Oh, I thought it started earlier than that. Okay, but that's still a long time.
That is.
Yeah, so that's my question. 2010 to 2022, that's 12 years. Is that typical?
We've had bridge projects take anywhere from 5 years to get to construction to 20 years to not be in construction yet.
Wow.
So it really depends on the project.
Okay.
This one is partially on federal Forest Service land, so we lost quite a bit of time through coordination with them to do some of our studies.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Hi, Blossom. I just wanted to go into the funding real quick. If you could help explain a little bit. So we got a couple messages coming into the board. It's just, okay, well, why are we spending so much on this bridge fund? Couldn't we put this towards the roads? Could you explain a little bit of where this funding comes from, what we could use it for, and why this is a really critical project?
Sure. So the Federal Highway Administration has funding specifically for bridge rehabilitation and replacement. The Highway Bridge Program can only be used on bridges and paving up to 400 feet on either side of the bridge, no further. So this bridge is currently posted for reduced loading. It's a railroad car bridge, and I know that a lot of heavy trucks go over it anyway, but they shouldn't. It's got a 15-ton, I believe, 15-ton single axle limit. So it's one of our worst bridges in the county. The Highway Bridge Program is created just for these types of local bridges where they know that the counties can't always come up with the funding to replace them.
Okay. And just final question on that. So in a worst case, so say something like this washes out, what does that potentially put for public works and our roads and other stuff at threat to try and as opposed to being able to fix this ahead of time, waiting until it's too late?
Well, not only is this a one-way in, one-way out road, so the residents would have no other way in or out if the bridge washed out, but we would essentially have to put all of our projects on hold, potentially borrow money, take money from paving projects, because those are our only contingency funds, our only are only funds that can be used discretionary. And so that would pretty much wipe out about $2 million worth of paving that we could do.
Great. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other comments. All right, so I'll look for a motion for item number 6.
So I'll move to approve the plan, specifications, and bid book for contract number 1629, Big Creek Shaft Road over Big Creek Shaft Bridge replacement. Issue a call for bids to be due March 17th, 2022, 2 p.m.
I'll second.
Do we do public comment?
Oh, gosh darn it. Now I gotta move this back in front of my computer. Is there any public comment? Yeah? No? Anybody on Zoom? This is going to be my downfall for the year, public comment. All right. No public comment. So we had a motion by Goldenberg, second by Jaron. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposed. Some passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Clerk of the board, would you please read item number 7?
Item number 7, consideration and selection of projects for inclusion in the county's 2022 Community Development Block Grant application.
Okay. I guess I need to check with Heather first. Is Lori Adams on? Okay, then I will get started. Lori Adams is our CDBG consultant, and she probably will be joining us partway through this presentation. So before you today, for your consideration, is Tuolumne County's 2022 Community Development Block Grant applications. As your board is aware, a call for proposals was released pursuant to board action that you took on December 14th, 2021. In general, the eligibility for CDBG is that for our applications to be competitive, it must benefit lower income households almost exclusively. And in that, there's also other requirements such as site control, leverage of public and private funds, environmental reviews, and other needed documentation that must be available in time for our submission of this application, and we're anticipating that being May 2022. The Notice of Funding Availability, the NOFA, hasn't formally been released yet. We've been told that it's due any time. We fully anticipate probably by the end of this month. But in the meantime, because the timing is getting really short, HCD staff has been working with some of the various entities, consultants, including Lori Adams, for us. And in that, they have told us that what they anticipate for the NOFA is the following: a maximum award of $1.5 million. A maximum activities that would allow in this grant application will be 3. Public services, you can apply up to $500,000 for them. Technical assistance grants can be up to $250,000, and housing activities can be up to $500,000. And just so the board is aware, we have been working in concert also, along with our outreach efforts with Rachel Bell and Quincy Yaley in regards to housing issues to see if there was anything that they needed. But they get from HCD home funds and other funds. So right now, they weren't interested in applying for these funds at this time. They're maxed out as far as their capacity. So as I just mentioned, we did a call for projects, and with that, then the standard for us as far as the call for projects, that was a public hearing meeting. So we noticed it before it came to your board. Then we did have the meeting. It was also posted on the county's website, January 6th. And then a notice was then published in the Union Democrat also on January 6th. A public meeting was held. Lori and I held a public meeting on January 20th to answer any questions from people in regards to the call for projects. And with the deadline of February 1st, we received 4 proposals. And the 4 proposals were kind of typical of what we get. CDBG is daunting, guys. It's hard. It's a tough grant to apply for, and it's a tough grant to then administer and do it. The recipients really have to, are required to do a lot of paperwork. They're required to meet milestones. They have to watch out for duplication of benefits, so it depends on what other funding sources they have. So that's why we never get a plethora of applications for this. It's tough money. It seems like it's real easy, and Lori and I, in the past, Terry and I, have tried to make it easy for our subrecipients, but it's tough money. So going back, the proposals that we received by February 1st were, we received 4 of them. One was, the first one for public services was ATCA for food bank operations, and their request was $500,000. The Resiliency Village, and this is the first time they've applied, was transitional housing with wraparound services, and they also applied for $500,000. For planning grants, we had 2, and the first one was from Innovations and Business Assistance to look at a broadband EIR countywide. And their request was $273,750. And then from the Health and Human Services Agency, they're looking at a feasibility study in regards to a navigation center, and they're looking at approximately $48,150. So with those proposals received, Lori and I then looked at them and reviewed them based on the CDBG criteria, but we also reviewed them and ranked them based on the following items. Would these services, or did they provide continued CDBG support to public services? Did they maximize the overall competitiveness of the county's application? Would they build a local capacity to implement programs within the county? And then most importantly, especially in light of what we were doing last week, is did these projects, how did these projects rank and rate against the 2021 goals outlined by the Board of Supervisors, the items that you want to accomplish in the community? In reviewing them, Lori and I found that all the applicants provided value to the citizens and supported the goals of the Board of Supervisors. We felt they were all worthy programs. They all did a good job in submitting their applications, and Lori and I appreciate the efforts that they went into putting together an application. Because the NOFA is not officially issued, we'll really need to review the broadband EIR or EAS, whatever it needs to be. That one's going to be really tough for us. In some preliminary conversations with HCD staff, they were worried about how we would get the nexus to low to moderate income levels. And would that mean at a countywide level, because we don't qualify on a countywide level. We do qualify in some of our communities. And so with that, Lori and I spent a lot of time talking to Cole Presavilla and figuring out maybe how we can alter or change not so much the scope of work, but what the grant will pay for. Maybe there is parts of the community, parts of our community that meet LMI, low moderate income levels, that maybe we can, that portion of a EIR, if your board wants to continue and recommend it for approval, Lori and I can work on that and try to do it. If we can't make it work, I mean, we're trying as hard as we can. If this is something the board wants to go forward with, then we might have to just drop it and find out other means of maybe funding that study. So for us, as we mentioned, we had 2 public services and 2 planning grants. In regards to the public service items, each of the projects, as we mentioned before, build capacity and expand the county's outreach and these services. Both are very needed programs. ACAs will provide funding for their operations, and the Resiliency Village, we felt very worthy. They did a great job in their application. They're just less than a year into their operations, And what we wanted to do is, our recommendation is to fund their transportation van, not their whole, we can't fund everything that they wanted, but we can fund their transportation van and start working, Lori and I can start working with them on CDBG, the regulations, what kinds of policies and procedures would CDBG or HCD staff want to see that they have so they can be successful and hopefully come back the next year and apply for more funding. As for the planning grants, these projects, again, are both on your board's 2021 goals. What we want to do, we're recommending that the broadband request be reduced to allow for full funding for the Navigation Center project so we can fund both of them. Again, we're still working with HCD staff to see how we can make the broadband project work. And with that, the review committee, Lori Adams and I, are recommending to you for submission in your 2022 CDBG grant application the following. Active Food Bank Services up to $450,000. Resiliency Village, the transportation vehicle of up to $50,000. Innovation and Business Assistance, the broadband EIR or EAS, whatever it needs to be, up to $200,000. Health and Human Services Agency, the Navigation Center feasibility study, up to $50,000. The final application will be brought back to your board for your consideration before submission. So we'll go over everything again. And with that, staff is recommending those items that I just mentioned, the Active Food Bank of up to $450,000, the Resiliency Village Transportation Vehicle up to $50,000, the Innovation and Business Assistant Broadband Study up to $200,000, and Health and Human Service Navigation Study up to $50,000 to be included in your 2022 CDBG application for this coming year. With that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Mo. I'm going to open it up to board. I'll start over here.
Sure. Thanks, Mo.
You're welcome.
So I've got a few questions. One of them, if we're allowed to submit maximum award up to $1.5 million, we ended up basically saying $750,000. I understand Resiliency Village has not been in place for that long period of time. What I don't have here in this document is because you picked out a vehicle, transportation vehicle, but I don't know how the rest of their application, was laid out. But it seems like if we're allowed up to $1.5 million, that perhaps we could have gone a little bit further. And I understand they don't have a track record, so to speak, but I would like to see that, perhaps we consider raising that up a bit and depending how it's broken down, to allow them to proceed forward in some other ways. They've had good success so far, and again, they're young, but they're really, one of few in the county.
So I appreciate those comments, and I do. Working with Mark these past couple of months and working with him on this application, I think they're doing a great job. I concur with your statements. The only problem we have is right now what we're being told by HCD is the maximum amount we're allowed under the public services category is $500,000. So in order for me to give more money to the Resiliency Village, I would have to take money away from the request from ACA, and I've already reduced them. Well, Lori and I already reduced them by $50,000.
Okay, so I guess I wasn't clear on that. So thank you for
no problem.
Explaining that.
CDBG is not easy.
Yeah, no. I'm a very firm supporter of the food bank. They're doing wonderful things throughout the communities. So, is this does this come up annually? This opportunity, or
here I go with CDBG. Usually, yes.
Okay.
It depends on their staffing levels. It depends on what they're able to do and their capacity to be able to get grants. There have been years where they haven't been able to issue a NOFA, and they've just rolled over to another year, but typically usually it's every year. Now, with that then is a caveat. So, for example, this year, even though there was a previous CDBG grant the previous year, because it was so oversubscribed in what they call community facilities, so infrastructure projects or any type of building that someone wanted to do, they're trying to go through that list. We appreciate that because we have a project on that list that we want to get done with Groveland Community Service District. So we're trying to hopefully get down to our project. But this year, because of that, they didn't allow us. What we're being told is they're not going to allow, when the NOFA gets issued, to do any construction projects.
Okay. Well, looking ahead to next year, hopefully we can, and I'm glad to see that we're looking at, hopefully providing them a vehicle under this if everything goes through. But, would like to support them more in the future.
Absolutely. And that's why Lori and I want to start working with them on looking at their policies and procedures and making sure they meet HCD qualifications and they have the needed information in them so they will be successful. Because if we don't, why we're so hard on these people and why we're so stringent about what we recommend is because if we fail, if one of our subrecipients doesn't meet a milestone or doesn't accomplish what they said they were going to do, then it's the county that gets penalized. And that penalty could be anything from giving back the grant funds that the subrecipient received to not being allowed to apply for 3 to 5 years again.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, can I add to that just a little bit?
Yeah.
On the Resiliency Center.
So on the phone is Lori Adams. Go ahead, Lori.
Access to their program to help them build the requirements to meet CDBG. If we look at some of the other items that they had requested in their budget, we also have a lot of issues on how their accounting situation is set up, and we felt that diving into each one of those programmatic issues was going to be very troublesome if they don't have a background. So the vehicle purchase was one that we could open up and start that process to build that with them. And then if we go in and fund them at a higher level, we also run into the problem of them reapplying next year because they have to meet a 50% expenditure in order to have access to the next NOFA. And we didn't want to put them in a situation where we would have issues getting to that 50% mark, and then it would hold them out for another year. So by selecting the vehicle, one, it meets a critical component of their program by providing transportation, but then it also opens up that opportunity to build their capacity, knowing that the food bank, balancing out the food bank was a critical point that you made. But the food bank won't be applying in the next funding cycle, so it will open up an opportunity to balance out that funding for them in that next cycle.
Okay, well, and thank you for that explanation, Lori. I would ask that during this next year that we work with them, so that if they have difficulties on how they're presenting their, budgeting, finance, bookkeeping, what have you, that, we facilitate, making them better eligible in the future.
And not only the Resilience Village, there's other organizations who, if they're interested in applying for CDBG, contact us now, and Lori and I can start working with you to prep for the next cycle.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Right.
And go Supervisor Campbell.
Hey, hi, Lori and Mo. Thanks very much. Community development block grants are not a simple thing. I don't even want to begin to understand all that you had to do to come up with these. I think you have some good recommendations here. There was one thing that I was expecting to see that I didn't see, and I was wondering, so I know Meals on Wheels was funded through CDBG for a long time, and I'm probably wrong on this, so correct. I'm gonna just give you wrong information. You correct me. My understanding was they were partially dependent on CDBG for operational funds, and so was there a reason why that wasn't included in this round, or do they have a new funding stream, or are they going to be in the next round?
your question is really good, and it is, for the most part, right on. There are several things. I'm sorry, I can't answer it directly. There's several components to it. So the first component is their activity. They weren't going to increase or expand their services. They had to set a number of people that they're going to serve, and that's not what CDBG wants to see. That doesn't lend to itself being competitive. So they don't want to. They want to see expanded services or increased services for the money that they're bringing, not supplanting money.
Okay.
In the past, the way that we've been able to get them funded was either through program income or when the public services weren't a competitive component of the CDBG application. So they would just get funding. If they would ride along on our competitive projects, and our competitive projects were usually an infrastructure project, whether it was with Jamestown Sanitary District or CUD or Groveland Community Service District, then they would be part of that. CDBG has changed those rules,
Okay.
of course, and now everything on your grant application sinks or swims as a collective group. So that was something they didn't apply. They were very aware of that. We had some conversations with them.
Okay.
They decided not to apply. The
Okay.
other thing for them is a concern is duplication of benefits and the money that they get, and they can't. The money that they would get because they are not increasing their services would be supplanting other money that they had within their budget.
So that grant that there have been a couple, right? They've been
few.
included in a number of the past CDBG grants.
Been a
Those were
while.
all for building up services for Meals on Wheels, and now we're kind of at a plateau. And so because of these rules changes, they're not able to
Right.
apply and with any expectation that they'll win. Is that
Right.
basically
So
what I'm hearing?
Yes. So
Okay.
it's really two components.
Okay.
Well, it's three components. It's really that they're not increasing their capacity. They're for the money they have. They're concerned with the other money they're getting in about the duplication of benefits and passing that rules and regulations. And then third, the amount of paperwork and reporting for this money is very onerous on somebody. And at this point in time, they didn't
Okay.
want to take that on.
I was just making sure that, this isn't make or break for them, that they're still going to be around
Yeah.
even without that. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Oh.
Play with buttons here. I'm going to we'll just keep working our way down. Supervisor Half.
So, with regard to the transportation vehicle, I just have maybe a suggestion
Okay.
for Resiliency Village. And our board may recall that Tyler Somerset, when he was with TCTC, was able to get an almost new bus for the Wave in Groveland. And it didn't cost hardly anything. And so I think this $50,000 can go a long way towards making the resiliency bus something that they can use if we can use that program again. And maybe, I think it's Tim Gillespie that took Tyler's place. Maybe he can reach out to Tyler and ask him exactly the name of that program. There were several options to choose from, and the bus that they ended up getting is beautiful, and then they had money to actually put the name on it and all that kind of thing. I don't know if Resiliency Village would want to go to that extent, but they may need other things in this bus, and so this may be all the money they need if they can take advantage of that program.
I'll let them know about
Yeah,
that.
and I'll think about the broadband thing because, we have members of the community that are low income interspersed throughout the whole county. I know that they're concentrated in certain areas, and if we can tie this study with possibly being able to do outreach for those community members that may need help, because there'll be money for low-income people in all the broadband money that's coming down the pike for outreach and for supplemental payments for internet services and so forth. So there has to be a nexus there somewhere that we can incorporate into this application when it finally goes through. So I'll be looking for that.
Yeah, and I think that's why Lori and I didn't want to remove this from the board recommendation. We really wanted to continue to, if it was a priority that your board wanted us to continue to look at, then Lori and I will continue to work with HCD to see any way possibly we can make this work.
Well, and this EIR for the whole county is so important to be done in advance so that we are on a good timeline to get last mile projects done within the time frame we're given. Because as we know, the EIR takes some time to do, and we want to be ahead of the game as far as that goes.
Oftentimes, and the EIR or EIS, whatever whatever our environmental specialist, Quincy Yaley, recommends to us, and we have been working with her on this, we would do both CEQA and NEPA, because a lot of the federal funds that will come down will require NEPA clearance. And so, as you said, if we're going to do this, then let's do it correct. So whether it's the color of the money is state, and that requires CEQA, or whether it's NEPA for federal dollars. We wanted to be able to make sure we cross off both of those boxes.
Yeah, well, thanks for recognizing that, Mo, and for doing the big work on that.
So I have a quick follow-up question. Understand, Mo, that if the broadband isn't approved, that there might be some room to perhaps raise the amount a bit on the Navigation Center study. It seems to be a little bit light. Not sure if that's going to be enough funds to, conduct a proper study.
Right, absolutely, Supervisor. So if the broadband doesn't go, or if the limits, once we get the NOFA, the limits are higher, then Lori and I will come back and work with HSA and say, hey, really, let's really look at this. Do you have enough money to do this study? Because this is not money that we came up with. This is money through their proposal they gave to us.
Correct.
So, just to
understand.
Sure.
Okay.
But yeah, there is some room for
there.
us to.
Okay. Very good.
As part of the application process, we actually will work with them to review their scope of work and ensure that their budget is adequate for what they are proposing as the final product.
All right, I'm going to hand it over to Supervisor Brandon.
Great, thank you. And thanks, Mo. Thank you, Lori. Appreciate that. I know this is a huge amount of work, as you told me. I know, I don't really know, but you tell me that, and I totally believe you with it. I can imagine this is difficult to follow year to year, as I think folks are fighting just to keep it around and make sure that this is an option for local governments. Mm-hmm. Just some kind of specific questions on here. Okay. So why is Resiliency Village under public services but not housing? It seems like with transitional housing, that would be under that category.
They get placed in those categories based on their scope of work that they proposed to us. Mm-hmm. And the scope of work that they proposed to us was providing services, not housing.
I see. So it could have been, if they had applied for a more housing-oriented side of that under a housing category, it's just what they asked for.
Could be. Lori, do you have any,
Sure. Let me clarify that a little bit. So our housing component is in there, and we can do rehab on units. And if they were proposing to do a transitional housing program, that would actually become a public facility and a construction component. If they were creating a permanent housing situation, then that would fall under housing construction support. And again, we would only be able to facilitate funds to that program in a rehab situation. CDBG dollars aren't able to be used for new construction. They're only able to support new construction if it's infrastructure requirements that are of public nature, i.e. running a new water line, sewer line, or some sort of a public infrastructure road in order to support that project, but we aren't able to actually work on the private property and the construction of the units.
Okay.
So there's a lot of nuances.
No, thank you. I just want to understand.
In this particular situation, yeah.
And I think on what Supervisor Goldenberg was mentioning, that there's the 3 different categories, and we're not applying for one under housing. We didn't receive an application under housing. Is that something that is out of the 1.5 million max? We're applying for 750 from the other 2 categories. For lack of a better phrase, are we leaving money on the table by not having a housing application of some type?
That's
that
a really good
500,000
question,
amount?
and yeah, that's a really good question. We actually reviewed that. I worked with Quincy and Rachel Bell in order to review your housing programs, and you are adequately funded with other funding sources. By adding the CDBG funds to the table for a housing program, it would actually disturb the flow of funds, and you probably would not meet the expenditure deadlines in order to allow your program to be successful, and then money would be returned, which you don't want to be in that position. So we did look at that very closely, discuss that, and you have adequate funds in your home program that meets both the home buyer and the owner-occupied rehab program.
Okay. I was more thinking about some of the nonprofit ongoing projects that we have in the community, which I think do have potentially utility investment needs. Do we have any capacity on this grant right now to be able to solicit any additional applications, or is that timeline completely passed?
According to what you set up back in December, it's passed.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have to. We have only 3 months to get from now to get the grant application written and submitted to the state, and that doesn't give us much time because, with it coming back to the board and scheduling it there and making sure all the documentation's there, and then getting it loaded into the system.
Okay,
That'd be
yeah,
really
that's
hard.
my question. I know it's
Yeah.
already exceeded our timeline, but whether we had, if we reopened it for a specific category, I don't want us to leave money, out there that we could be able to bring into the community. Other than that, I just had 2 quick questions also. On the past food bank allocations, how does that look over time? So is 450 less than they were receiving before? Was 500 what they applied for with the normal amount they've gotten?
So the 450 is slightly less than what they have received before, but there is an opportunity, depending on board decisions coming up on March 1st. Tuolumne County was in receipt of CDBG CV COVID money, and we got a grant, CV1, CV2, CV3, and CV2 and 3 were combined together. And the state has come back and said to us, we realize that some of the regulations, some of the items that we placed as far as restrictions on some of the activities you could do, we said, yes, you can do them, and then no, we didn't, is really causing some problems, specifically in housing stabilization. And we had most of the money, all of the money for CV 1, 2, and 3 going to housing stabilization. Not only that was a problem, but also the deadlines of expenditure of those funds is a problem. And so the state has come back to all the entities and said, A, would you like a time extension on the expenditure of these funds? And 2, do you want to look at any reallocation of these funds? And so on March 1st, Lori and I will be coming back to your board with a revised, working with the entities that had applied before under CV 1 and 2, 3, coming back with a revised amount, and the food bank is on there.
Okay.
So between the funding with this grant application and then the possibility of some additional CV money, they should be whole.
Great. Well, I want to say thank you for all the work put into this. I think the priorities are identified in it, in trying to lay broadband infrastructure and have a plan for that, and trying to add capacity to what's out there to be able to help people get off the streets, get folks off the streets, especially when we're talking about closing some of the areas. And then looking at, I think, the food bank, especially in my district, close to my heart. I really do appreciate these. I think it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you, Mo. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
All right, with that being said, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Is there any public comment in the room or any public comment via Zoom? Not see anything. I'll give it about 10, 15 seconds. And while we're waiting for public comment, I'll just say thank you. It sounds like a lot of the questions that we had, you guys had done research on, and you understand the priorities of the board, and that's where we try and fit things as we do research and make decisions. So thank you, and looking forward to this last retreat and getting those priorities and making them even simpler.
Yeah.
So. Anybody on Zoom? Okay. All right. With that being said, I will bring it back to the board. I'll look for a motion for item number 7.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we accept the staff recommendations with respect to the CDBG grant application.
All right. Got a first by Campbell.
Second.
Second by Goldenberg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to, you guys want to take a 5-minute break? Or let's take a 7.5, 8-minute break. We'll come back at 10 o'clock. All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to start the meeting back up for February 15th. We are on item number 8. Clerk of the board, would you please read item number 8?
And item number 8, submission of a grant application to Sonora Area Foundation requesting matching funds and approval of a letter of support.
Take it away.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Maureen Frank, County Administrator's Office. Before you today is consideration of submission of a grant to the Sonora Area Foundation in regards to our Community Resiliency Center project. The Sonora Area Foundation is a wonderful organization in our community, and we're very blessed to have them. It is through their work that various nonprofits and public agencies can apply to them in hopes of getting grants to help support the programs and services that they're providing. These grants are competitive and awarded only to worthy projects that help improve the quality of life in Tuolumne County, whether it's for education, human services, recreation, arts, or the environment. And that last line was taken off of their website. And I can't think of a better program than the Community Resiliency Centers that really will meet all of those objectives that Sonora Area Foundation tries to meet in their mission in regards to grant funds. As your board is aware, the National Disaster Resiliency Competition and the Neighborhood Stabilization Program does not pay for furniture. They're very specific about it. Anything that is not bolted down, mounted, affixed, adhered to the facility in some form or fashion cannot be paid for through those grant funds. This is the same kind of requirement we had for the jail and the juvenile facility. So as I've been over the years working with architectural firms, I have made sure that as much of our equipment and stuff is bolted, affixed, adhered to as much as possible. But there's just some items that we can't. Those items include furniture for our lobby and offices, our classrooms, as far as tables and chairs, for our large conference room in which we want to be able to rent out to other people and make sure that we have tables and chairs and needed ancillary items like ADA podium for the ADA for the equipment, the AV equipment that we hope to get in these facilities. It's ADA listening devices and microphones, wireless microphones. We look at the kitchen, on day one that we open. I want it to be able for Dory and any kind of first responder to be able to go into that facility and be able to do mass feeding if they need to out of those facilities. So very basic kitchen items. So those are the equipment, if you will, that will not be paid for from the grant, that we need to find some other funding. The total cost of this additional items or this furniture and equipment comes to $139,462. The request to the Sonora Foundation is for half of that, $69,731, with the remaining needed funding being requested from staff to the county's contingency fund as a match to that grant. Also, one of the recommendations in the grant application to Sonora Area Foundation is a letter of support. And so, as staff, I'm respectfully requesting a letter of support from your Board of Supervisors. In your agenda package, I did include a sample letter for you to consider to be included in this application. I have been blessed by support letters from ATCA, Columbia College, Health and Human Services Agency, Innovation and Business Assistance, Office of Emergency Services, the Sheriff's Office, and Southside Community Connections, and the Superintendent of Schools, who are all been all the way along through this project. All of them have been supportive of this project and are partners in this, and will have services and programs out of these facilities for the community. So before you today for your consideration, again, is submission of a grant application to the Sonora Area Foundation in the amount of $69,731 to purchase furniture and equipment for the community resiliency centers. Second is to authorize the matching funds for this grant application to be taken out of contingencies at the end of the fiscal year, and to approve a letter of support for inclusion with the grant application. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Mo, for the presentation. I'm going to open it up to board members. I'm going to start with Supervisor Brandon and go this way.
Hi, Mo. Just a quick question. The matching grant funds at the end of the fiscal year, that is contingent on receiving the Sonora Area Foundation grant?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Haff, nothing? All right. Campbell, none?
Just a couple of quick items. Mo, recently you just sent out an update on the centers. They're approaching 50% completion, so yay.
Yay, yay.
Very good to see that. I'm just curious, because we're looking for furniture and items, for these offices, classrooms, conference room space, et cetera. Are we to the point where we actually have negotiated agreements for all the various entities that want to occupy space in our new facilities?
We have preliminary agreements with all of them. Formal agreements need to come before we need to create them and come to your board with that, and that'll probably happen sometime this summer.
Great. Appreciate all your efforts on this and all the letters of support that we got as well.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's nice.
Okay. No, the only thing that came to mind, because I already spoke with you about this earlier, but it came to mind because we started talking about contingencies, and I think Brandon asked it appropriately. So if Sonora Area Foundation does provide it, the contingencies come into place as far as being used, correct? Have we had discussions with our partners about potentially, if they have any revenue sources, to maybe help offset that so we're not touching contingencies? Has that maybe been an option? And I'm sorry I didn't ask you this earlier.
No, absolutely. No, it is an option. I haven't explored that with them yet, but I continue to try to find other potential assistance to pay for some of these items.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, sir, County Council, I'm just going to look to you. That's something that we don't have to go through as far as the budget discussion. When we're pulling out money out of contingencies, we can approve that here today.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and address that. So once we hear back from Sonora Area Foundation, we're also coming up on our year-end budget review, which there'll be a lot of adjustments made at that time that your board can take action on. So I would recommend that once we understand whether or not we're going to get this granting opportunity, then we can look at how we can fund the other half of this and look at all options.
So there will be
not
additional
just
time to discuss this.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, you know how I am with contingencies, so. All right. Well, with that being said, thank you, Mo, and thank you to our partners. I know at the end of the day, this is going to benefit our communities as far as the programs in there. So we got to have a place for them to sit. With that being said, I will look for a motion.
Public comment?
Oh, God. I have it right in front of me. Public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? None. Is there anybody on Zoom? We'll give it a couple seconds just to make sure. No hands going up? Nothing? Okay. Well, then I'll look for a motion.
I will move to approve the submission of a grant application to Sonora Area Foundation requesting matching funds and approval. And
Okay, I have a first by half.
approve the letter of support that's attached in this.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'll second.
And a second by Campbell. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? None? Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you so much.
right, Clerk of the Board, would you please read item number 9, please? Yes, 9, thank you.
Okay, item number 9, consideration of waiving the second reading and adopting an ordinance amending section 2.52.010 of the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code, increasing the salary for the Board of Supervisors to $53,517.16, effective April 24, 2022, and tie automatic increases to that of the Superior Court judges pursuant to Government Code Section 68203, effective July 1st, 2023.
All right, good morning. Eric Earhart, County Administrator's Office. At the January 18th board meeting, staff was directed to return to your board with a first reading of an ordinance that would reflect a 3% increase in board member salary. As a result, on February 8th, your board heard two different options, and we returned with a first reading of an ordinance at that time. The first option was a straight 3% increase with no additional increases in the future. The second option was an option to tie the 3% increase or future increases beyond that to the Superior Court judge's salary pursuant to the Government Code. Your board directed staff to schedule a second reading for that option for today, which is why we're here today. So it is recommended that your board waive the second reading and adopt ordinance amending section 2.52010 to the Tuolumne County Ordinance Code, increasing the salary for Board of Supervisors to $53,517.16 annually, effective April 24th, 2022, and tie those automatic increases to the Superior Court judges pursuant to Government Code Section 68203, effective July 1st, 2023.
All right, thank you for reading that. I will open it up to the board. I'll start down here with Supervisor Goldenberg for any questions or comments.
Sure. My only comment is, I was supportive of this at our last, board meeting where we discussed this on February 8th. Since then, I and imagine, other supervisors have received correspondence, regarding the ongoing, portion of this. And, I think that we made it clear as a board that we were looking for a way to take this in the future out of the board's hands. And I think this is the appropriate way to go. And I've explained that to, several people that have reached out to me. And I feel comfortable with that. And so that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments down here? Supervisor Brandon?
Yeah, I just want to back that up. I completely agree with Supervisor Goldenberg. This is something that was very important to me because I don't like the system how we do it. Every single year, just to keep it up with inflation, it comes back here. And any Board of Supervisors could go and make a motion and increase it to 40% and do whatever they want. That, to me, is not an accountable system, even though it comes back every year. We end up with two outcomes, right? We end up with one outcome where it's never increased because we're not doing this for the money and we don't want it to be that way. But then you do that for 10 years and suddenly this becomes a job which already does not pay a huge amount with a lot of the responsibility, but then becomes to where you can't necessarily raise a family, have a house, make your mortgage payment, and we will end up with a government that cannot have working people, that cannot have lower income people, that cannot have anybody who is not financially independent or working a second job up on this dais, and I don't think that's right. Just laying out my thoughts, I received similar emails with that, at least a few of them. The 2017 grand jury, that is the citizen watchdog of many of these organizations, recommended that there is a problem with the compensation, that needs to be addressed to be able to get competitive candidates, also people that can dedicate their full time to this position. What we offered in the drafting of this was 3%, and that number was arrived at because it was the lowest offered to our staff. Some others did get higher. We opted for that. 28 out of 58 counties choose to do it on a longer-term method. They do it by tying it to the judges, and they choose the judges because those increases are, I believe, tied to some type of average of what's happening with the state. So you're not subject to a massive fluctuation based on, say, state priorities. And we would be, I think, the 29th county, therefore making it a majority of counties, or 50%, in the state that do it this way, which is how we arrived at that. I think taking this out of the board's hands, where we will have a CPI, an inflation adjustment per year. But this will not come back with the opportunity for any future board to suddenly do a raise. That basically, if a discussion comes out about compensation, it's going to be about a net increase. I think there's a lot more accountability in that system. I think that provides for people well into the future and well beyond us to be able to serve in this role. And I think we're taking a really responsible and accountable step with this. I don't think it's to try and make it easier or to make a lot of money in this. I think it's as was recommended to us by the citizens of the county when they investigated it, and I think it's a good idea. So those are my only comments.
Thank you for your comments. Look to my left, right. Any other comments? I'm going to go to public comment without any assistance. So is there any public comment in the room? I don't see any. We'll wait a minute or a few seconds for Zoom. Do we have anybody on Zoom? We do? Okay. So we'll give you a chance to set up with Zoom. All right. If you would unmute yourself. Do you have a... They're on? Let's see.
Larry?
We have a Larry. Is there a Larry?
Yes.
All right. We can hear you, Larry.
Larry Barsetti? Yes. Thank you, Supervisor. I don't know. Listening to what was said here, I'm kind of confused. I heard what you said. You're going to get a pay raise today, and then you're tying future raises to this schedule as the judges. But Supervisor Brander, my question is this the end of it, or are you going to keep coming back to the board year after year asking for higher pay raises? It didn't seem clear to me.
Okay. And
did you hear me?
yes, County Council, can we answer that based on the ordinance?
Sure. The ordinance provides that every time the Superior Court judges of the state of California receive a percentage increase in salary, the board members will automatically receive that same increase. So yes, the board members could also make modifications to this ordinance because that's something that your board has the authority to do. But as it's currently drafted, the increases would just be automatic.
So, did you want to comment?
Yeah, I was
Sure.
just going to follow up at least my own interpretation of it really, really quick. And thank you for calling, Larry. Basically, as it is right now, to keep up with inflation, we're forced to somewhat consider it at least every year, every few years. What this does is say that due to inflation, we're not going to have to consider it. The board could still choose to try and increase it if they want to in the future, but it would because they want to do a net increase, not because they just want to do a little adjustment. The thing is when you do one of those reasonable little adjustments that I think makes sense, it provides an opportunity to jump that up at any point to whatever percentage 3 people decide to on the board here. So I think by removing a lot of those options and opportunities to do that, it would reduce that risk. It would be a kind of a one and done. But no, it would not permanently restrict the ability because that's written into the ordinance. That's how it has to be done. Is the board always has the ability to change ordinance, if that answers your question.
Well, so what you're saying here is that you could get a 3%, say, raise every year if the judges get a 3% raise, but you can also come back and ask for another 10%.
It could, but I don't think people would like that.
What would stop that?
Good. Okay. Larry, we didn't have the timer going because it kind of went back and forth. Okay. Okay, so he has 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. All right. Hey, Larry, you do have 2 minutes and 20 seconds left if there's any other questions or comments you want to make. Otherwise, please advise, and we will move on to the next caller.
Did you hear my last question?
Sorry, could you repeat it? I believe we did, but...
Okay. Well, in other words, then, the judges get a 3% raise every year. Could you come back after receiving that 3% raise and give yourself a 10% raise?
So the answer...
On top of that 3%.
per county council, the answer is yes. It could come back to the board, and the ordinance could be amended to give. But yeah, not without a public hearing, exactly what we're doing today. So does that answer your question, Larry?
Oh, yes. Thank you. It does. Thank you,
Okay.
Supervisor.
All right. And unless you have any other comments, I'm going to move on to the next Zoom caller. Is that okay? All right. Not hearing anything. Okay. Anybody else on Zoom? Anybody else on Zoom? Okay. All right. I'm going to bring it back to the board for any final comments before I make a comment. To my left, right? Okay.
Just that, as I said in the past, I voted this way when it comes to pay raises for electeds in the past, and this is kind of a continuation of what we did last week, and my position on that hasn't changed.
Sure. And I'm still basically where I'm at last week. When I ran for office, I knew what the pay was. I knew what I was getting into, and if I didn't like it, I shouldn't have ran, but I did. So I'm okay with the pay I receive. As far as grand juries, when we talk about grand juries, there was a grand jury report, the 1999-2000 report, and in it they said we urge the board to follow the model set by the U.S. Constitution and make any such pay raise effective after their current term expires. So I'm still in office. I'm okay with keeping up with inflation and keeping somewhat of a comparable pay increase, but I don't think that should be while I'm in office. I think it should be for the person who follows me. So with that being said, I do not support this, and for those very clear reasons. So with that being said, I will call for a vote for item number 9. So if anybody would like to make a motion.
Sure. I'll move to approve item 9.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Brandon, second by Goldenberg. You call for all those in favor say aye.
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 And those who oppose?
No.
No. And also with my opposing vote, I have a waiver here. It says, I hereby waive the right to receive a 3% of my compensation for the fiscal 21-22 year, which would otherwise be payable to me at the beginning of April 24th. So I'm going to waive the raise that's coming and not accept it as long as I'm in office. So the motion passes 3-2. Yeses by Brandon, Goldenberg, half, and nays will be Campbell and Kirk. All right. Okay. Well, thank you guys for your comments. I know we all respect different opinions, and so thank you guys for that conversation. And it looks like item number 10 has been pulled.
Yeah, correct. We're still waiting on some feedback on that before we're ready to speak with your board again about it. So yes, it will be pulled for today. Thank you.
Okay. And with that being said, it's like staff gets an early break to get some work done before the 1:30 appointment. So I'm going to actually, would we like to do reports right now? Get it out of the way. Let's get reports done, and then we'll break for an early lunch. So I will start. Does anybody want to go first? If anybody's prepared. Let's go with staff. County council? Nothing? Okay. Half? Or I'm sorry, Heather? Nothing? Nothing? Okay. Anybody else up here ready?
Yeah, we had the workshops all last week, so I don't have a whole lot of, I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Supervisor Brandon?
No, pretty much the same. We spent a lot of time last week at the workshop, and then preparing after it. There wasn't a lot of extra time. I did attend a couple really nice fundraisers and events this weekend, a couple nonprofit groups. I wanted to throw out there that if anybody's hungry, there's some pancakes on the 26th of February. I got some tickets, but one pile at a time is doing a fundraiser. So if you're wanting to go get a meal, go meet some of the people there and help raise some money, I think it's $12 per ticket. I'll get that information to you. Obviously it's a really great group and it's a fun crowd, so I think it'll be a good time at Applebee's.
Supervisor Goldberg?
Sure. So as described, we had our workshop last week, and very good session. our interaction with our department heads and higher level staff was very, very good. And I appreciated all the time that we had with them and the opportunity to work with them on moving forward. And basically, we came out with, 3 areas that we were looking at. One, that we were setting priorities. Number 2, that we were setting objectives at a high level to look at those priorities. And those items you got fairly well flushed out during our workshop. The area that is not complete yet is now we are looking at our department heads and upper level staff to come back with action items to meet those objectives. And once they came back, to us, with that, then we'll flush that out and we'll work it out appropriately. And I'm very much in favor of that process because we need to have our departments well involved in this process. Other than that, had a really good meeting with the Commission on Aging yesterday. Always a pleasure working with that group. They're very, very much ingrained and working on stuff day in and day out, multiple committees, and I appreciate their efforts. Thank you.
It's my turn? Okay. The only thing that I would, other than our workshops, of course, I participated in the Transportation Council with Supervisor Half. There was some discussion there about making some kind of a presentation to this board about what type of advocacy is currently going on and how we could kind of coordinate on some of those efforts, piggybacking off of the discussion that we had here last week. And I also know that the city of Sonora is interested in participating in that conversation, and so the more voices we can get, the louder our megaphone will be. And it was kind of nice because Caltrans, there were actually 3 representatives from Caltrans at our TCTC meeting, and so they were able to kind of hear some of those conversations and share directly with them. So hopefully we'll have some information on just so we can kind of coordinate a little bit on how to best advocate for local roads, changes to the public contract code, and some of the other things that we discussed here. Apart from that, that would be that's the majority of what I would have to report.
Okay. As we all stated, we had the retreat, which went well, so I'm looking forward. We'll have presentations in the future about how that went and where we're headed. The only thing I'll report out is I got up really early on Saturday and participated in the NACO conference, specifically the interim resolution. And it was really an interesting process because NACO, we ended up getting quite a few sponsors, co-authors who wanted to jump on the bandwagon. And so as they looked at it, they made a few revisions. We got a lot of pushback. It was interesting. Well, here, let me back up a little bit so you guys understand the backstory. NACO received their final version on Thursday afternoon, I believe. And then Friday morning, I had a very long letter from a lot of folks who have PhDs up and down the United States. So they had basically pre-written me a letter saying how they were against it. And they contradicted themselves all over the place with science and with just, I was just like, I don't understand. This is real simple. It's about rulemaking. So when I went to NACO, it was interesting because in the room, I couldn't see the angle because of where the video was at. But, NACO is supposed to be represented by county supervisors and county commissioners. But the room had been stacked with a lot of bureaucrats. There was people from the U.S. Forest Service, people from Climate Action Change, just all sorts of departments. And so the majority of people who spoke in opposition of the resolution were all these bureaucrats. It was really enlightening to watch unfold. And then the people who support it were like the county commissioners and supervisors who, well, no, we have great things, but we really just want U.S. Forest Service to do rulemaking, which is what every other bureaucratic agency does. So at the end of the first session, we did get some pushback even from county commissioners. There's a lot of confusion about what is the initial fire attack policy and do we really want to be implementing that. And so the group got back together in between the lunch break. We completely gutted the resolution of anything having to do with initial fire attack because there just wasn't enough support from folks. But we did stand firm, like, no, but we really want rulemaking. when we went back into the second session, somebody very high up from the U.S. Forest Service, I don't think it was the chief, but maybe second in command, basically was in a nutshell kind of pleading with us like, hey, how about we just send a memo out from the chief that we're going to do a better job communicating with the counties. We're going to do a better job of bringing you guys in. And I said, look, I don't think you're getting it. That's the whole point. Rulemaking will force us to all be at the table instead of just emails, phone calls. You know, we have a great relationship here, but you should hear some of the horror stories in other states. And so what was really, and there was also a hot mic. Somebody left their mic on, and they were basically saying how they're going to vote because they were upset with us not backing down and going with memos instead of rulemaking. It was something that could have been like on national TV as a joke. So at the end of the day, they decided to postpone the item. I've never seen this happen. They decided, you know, we're going to push this out until June or July. And since then, I can't keep up with the emails and phone calls, but the counties who were represented in that meeting, they were all reaching out saying, I don't understand why this is so complicated, why people want to subvert rulemaking. And it's pretty incredible to unfold. So all that to say, the NICL resolution was put on pause. It got pushed to June or July, and which will put us right in the middle of fire season. So I think a lot of people are just going to be even more riled up then. But at the end of the day, what I realized is that people are watching what we're doing, asking for rulemaking. They don't like it. They don't want to have to deal with it. They would rather put out memos and have partners, but they don't want to be bound to a process, which I think is really unfortunate. But I think the tables are turning, and I think we're headed there. And I'm glad that we're able to present it, but I'm also glad that a lot of other people who've been working on this for a long time are really picking it up. Tuolumne County is just part of the conversation, but there are several just states who have been pushing this for a long time. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, and I'll keep you guys abreast. And I would just want you guys to know I was very professional. I wasn't yelling or kicking or screaming. I'm just telling you how it is and how I saw it. But we made a lot of good contacts. That second in command from the Forest Service, we got names and numbers, and we're going to be talking. So connections are good, and continuing conversation is good. Because at the end of the day, I think we all want the same thing, but there's different ways of arriving there and making things binding and lasting. And so I know I spoke a little bit, but I think it's important. There's a lot that went into it. Yeah.
Great. And it wasn't on that. It was a separate thing.
Sure. Go ahead. So then I'm done. No more reports. Take it over.
Great. Thank you. This is just one conclusion. I wanted to be able to have everything go around. One takeaway, at least, that I had from the workshop is I think this board's, as they said, I think unanimous recognition that the employees of this organization, we have great people. And everything that we're trying to do, all the ambitious goals we put forward, none of that is possible without the folks, being able to do those jobs. But I think the people that we actually have here, we have awesome people in Tuolumne County. And I think a huge priority of this board was looking at how can we improve the workplace culture? How can we be able to alleviate some of the vacancy to relieve that? And how can we be able to build ourselves back stronger and more resilient? So I just want to say to anybody and staff watching this and that, we talked at length about it, and I think everybody up here recognizes how important that is, how lucky we are to have you in this organization, and what we can do from our capacity to be able to make it better and make it more fulfilling and give you more opportunities in it. And overall, make it fun. I think Supervisor Campbell, make it fun to go to work again, and build the county family that we got going. I just wanted to throw that out there. We did talk about a lot of things, but that one in particular, I want to make sure the staff that were not there are hearing that message.
Okay, thank you for that. And staff are our greatest asset. Can't get anything done without you guys. So it is 10:35, and so we're going to end this portion of the meeting. We will return at 1:30. And do we anticipate a report out for that portion?
Yeah, there'll be some action that your board needs to take on that 1:30.
Okay. All right. So thank you guys. We'll see you at 1:30. It is 1:30. We're going to reconvene the February 15th Board of Supervisors meeting. And I am going to introduce to you our county counsel. She has a sign she'd like to put up because we are opening a public hearing. So clerk of the board, would you please read the item?
1:30 p.m. public hearing, consideration of adopting resolution 23-22, implementing an ambulance tax in the South County ambulance zone from January 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2028, subject to voter approval, and resolution 24-22, placing the South County ambulance zone tax on the June 7th, 2022 ballot.
All right, Mr. Boyack.
Yeah, Mr.
Take it
Chairman.
away.
Members of the board, Steve Boyack from the Health and Human Services Agency. So currently, there is 24/7 advanced life support ambulance. Is that better? Okay, all right. Yeah, I hate breathing on this thing. But... All right, are we good there? All right, let me start over. All right, so currently there is 24/7 advanced life support ambulance services in the Groveland area to cover medical emergencies that arise. This is possible because of a special property tax that the South County voters have supported for the past 33 years. 33 years, a long time. In elections held in 1988 and 1997, the voters in the South County approved two 10-year ambulance tax measures to pay for ambulance services within the South County ambulance zone. And again in 2008 and 2012, the voters chose to approve a 5-year ambulance tax extension on improved parcels and commercial properties at a flat rate of $70 per parcel. And then again in 2018, the voters approved a 5-year tax extension and increased the tax from $70 to $90 per parcel. And I want to acknowledge the fact that the parcel tax is only on improved parcels, so there is no parcel tax on unimproved property. 24/7 ambulance services in Groveland could not be maintained without this special property tax to help offset the costs of operating a fully staffed ALS ambulance station. Historically, even with the tax revenue, it has been necessary for the Ambulance Enterprise Fund from time to time to subsidize the South County operations. For example, in the adopted fiscal year 21-22 budget, there will be, even though it's a small amount, there will be a small contribution from the Enterprise Fund in the form of $3,805 to balance the budget. Over the past several years, the South County Ambulance Zone typically receives between 438 and 640 calls annually for service, which is approximately 5.8% of the total countywide call volume. So for comparison's sake, the entire countywide ambulance system will respond on average between 7,500 calls and 8,000 calls a year. So on November 5th, 2021, staff brought before your board's finance committee when we presented a tax measure item, and the finance committee was provided multiple scenarios with the assessment or tax rate at different costs per parcel. So we looked at $90, $100, $110, $120, and I think $130. And after discussing the scenarios, the Finance Committee provided a recommendation to staff to maintain the current tax amount at $90 per parcel. That's why we're here before your board today. So staff is recommending a 5-year tax measure at $90 for improved and commercial properties with no tax on unimproved parcels. In your staff report in table 4, we have estimated over a 5-year time period beginning with July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30, 2028, what we expect to see with regards to the tax revenue, billing revenue, and other revenue in the form of $50,508, what the total revenue looks like against the total expenses, and what that net cost for the Groveland Cost Center looks like. So we wanted to inform your board of what we believe those estimates look like. So with this level of ongoing revenue support, ALS ambulance service in the Groveland area would risk hours in operations if, in fact, we're not successful here, or the Groveland voters do not move forward with extending this tax measure. So with the current 5-year tax set to expire June 30, 2023, a new measure will be needed to be placed on the June 7, 2022 ballot in order to maintain 24/7 ALS ambulance service in the Groveland area. Should the tax measure pass on June 7th, now this is a special tax, so there is a necessary 2/3 vote majority required. So should the measure pass, the tax would go into effect July 1st, 2023 and end June 30, 2028. So with that, it's respectfully recommended that your board, at the conclusion of this public hearing, adopt the resolution implementing an ambulance tax in the South County ambulance zone from July 1st, 2023 through June 30, 2028, subject to voter approval. And it is further recommended that your board adopt an additional resolution calling for an election and consolidating the measure with the June 7th, 2022 ballot. Would be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you for that presentation. I'm going to start over here. Any questions, comments? Actually, no, I'm going to start with half. It's in her district. I'm sorry.
I do have some questions that I just thought of, so sorry for no pre-warning, but what neighborhoods, what communities does this tax go to? I know it goes to Groveland, Big Oak Flat. Does it go to Moccasin? Does it go to Chinese Camp?
So it's ambulance in the South County ambulance zone. It is a CSA, so it's a county service area 21. There is a boundary with that supervisor. I can't be specific with exactly what that boundary encompasses, but there is a map.
If you will notice in the resolution, there is a cite to another resolution, 128-07. It's not attached to the board packet, but it's available, and we can provide that. And it has attached to it the maps of the zones in that CSA.
Okay, that's a question that I would like to make sure we answer when we have the virtual town hall meeting on March 16th, Wednesday night, March 16th, so that we can answer that question. I think it's really great in the resolution. I wanted to call the board's attention to this because it's something I was not aware of. It breaks, it's still $90 no matter what kind of parcel it is. You have improved residential. You also have multi-residential. And in multi-residential, it's not $90 for the whole parcel. It's $90 per dwelling unit. Okay, so we're calling it a parcel tax, but, you know, if it's a multi-residential parcel, it's per dwelling unit. So that's something that we really need to spell out so that people understand the difference. And commercial, it's $90 also per parcel. I don't think I have any other questions. That was one thing that I wanted to call out. If I think of anything else before you guys go, I'll come back.
Thank you. I just had some questions about, so when this was initially established and then the measure was renewed, I mean, what was the margin that it passed by for the special assessment?
In 2018, Supervisor, 66.7%.
Okay. And so was it discussed at all to potentially consider a citizen initiative process for this?
I don't know that we did discuss that.
Only because that's a razor's edge. We wouldn't want a situation where we put this on the ballot, a few people change their votes, doesn't pass, and we didn't have a way to be able to make that up. Sure. This relates to Prop 13 and Prop 218, and there is 4 special taxes put on the ballot by an agency like the county or the city. It defines what a special tax has to be, which is 2/3. Right. There is a process as set up in some court law. Basically sets it that a citizen initiative, so qualified by signatures from a citizen committee, can qualify potentially at a general tax measure, even if it's a special assessment. So that doesn't apply to 218. And so I'm speaking a little out of my range on this, but I do know it's something that has been pursued a few times by other folks.
Supervisor Brandon, I think one thing just for everybody to consider, and Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, but the county has to obviously be careful about the types of measures we can put on. And so we can't obviously engage in any sort of campaigning. And so the county really can't ever lead or suggest a citizen's initiative. But what it can do is the action that it's taking today is bringing this before your board, and then your board can place something on. So I think whether or not there's ever been a group that would consider putting that on the ballot is kind of a separate question, and I don't know, maybe Supervisor Half would have more information, but from staff's perspective, what we can do legally is what we're bringing to the board today.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that, for clarification, kind of steer away from that a little bit. I did just want to ask too, I think every area should have the right to be able to put on the ballot the services that they would like to see and be able to pay for that. I did want to ask, I believe it was initially 70, right? It was moved up to 90. It seems there is a bit of a deficit there with the amount each year. So why not just put it up to what the actual expected cost would be for the next 5 years?
Well, that certainly is an option for us to consider. We did provide several scenario options like that, Supervisor, to the Finance Committee, and we did discuss them in great detail. And I certainly would like to see this pass again. And in the present and current environment that we're in, do I dare say politically, the importance of this particular parcel tax and the importance of having a 24/7 ALS ambulance in Groveland for Groveland folks is absolutely enormous. And I know it is a parcel tax, and I know that the folks over there pay that. And by not having that, there will be considerable reductions in service. We just don't have any choice. I just went through the response or service statistics out in the Groveland area, and even with the level of service that's provided out there, along with this tax revenue, there is still a net cost that is assumed by the Ambulance Enterprise Fund, and our hope is to certainly roll out with town hall meetings in an effort to answer questions that the Groveland folks have just like that. And so it's hugely important, to say the least.
And then my last question with it is just, I think some folks, they look at a tax measure and they're like, well, I don't want to pay more for what's happening or continue this. But looking at that, we've had a lot of discussions about ambulance services recently at the county, potential changes, kind of coming there. If this isn't voted in, I mean, what's the impact? So say this is then voted down, what ends up happening?
So there has been dialogue over what may happen. For example, I want to be careful here because I without getting the team together to discuss what not having that level of revenue means to operations out in the Groveland area, I can't say that we would reduce by a certain number of hours per day. There would definitely be 911 ALS ambulance service on the Hill, but not 24/7. I can say that. Okay.
All right. Thank you. I know I emailed you guys, and I think my only concern, which you guys addressed, was, if we're going through the negotiations with the ambulance, why not wait until that negotiation? But it's very obvious based on the numbers with the Finance Committee, response statistics, that there needs to be more funding in place to continue services. So thank you guys for vetting all that out. And I know it's important. I mean, at the end of the day, when you call 911, someone's got to be there. So we got to figure out a way to fund it. With that being said, I do want to open it up to public comment.
You have a couple of supervisors that haven't spoken yet.
Oh, I am so sorry. I thought I started down here. I did. I thought I did start here, and then I jumped to half because it was in her district. So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I will open it up to Goldenberg and Campbell, and then public comment.
And very appropriate to have Supervisor Half speak to this first because it is her district. So Supervisor Campbell and I both sit on the Finance Committee, and we discuss this at pretty good length. And even though on the chart on page 2 at the bottom, it shows that there's a bit of a negative, the decision of the Finance Committee was to go ahead and proceed forward with going with $90 again. And they felt that, we felt, that between the billing, that this would be acceptable because it was a fairly minor difference. I guess I would like to address the Supervisor Half. You mentioned multi-residential. Having been in the fire service, having been in the dispatch community, where I managed dispatching, including ambulances and fire, when you look at multi-residential, you look at an increased call volume, so that it is appropriate, in my mind, that they pay accordingly, for that. Other than that, the folks obviously in the Groveland area, they've been very concerned about, ensuring, that they have a good level of service. So your question regarding the boundaries is an important one, and, would like to make sure that, gets flushed out. I think as far as the numbers of population, that the areas that may be out of the Groveland area, main Groveland area, probably aren't that many, but, would like to hear from, staff on that. Anyways, it was our distinct recommendation that we proceed forward with the $90 again as a ballot measure and let them proceed, accordingly. Supervisor Brandon, you mentioned, citizens initiatives. Quite frankly, that's not something that's being discussed here. So I do know that it can be, pertain, in other areas, as far as, how we might approach, other measures. Personally, the laws that are out there, speak to when you have a dedicated fund, that you meet the 2/3, criterion. And I think that that's proper, because people, want to know that their money is going to go towards those types of services. So anyways, that's my comments. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you, Supervisor Goldenberg. I think for me, it just boiled down to the fact that, the numbers don't lie. If we want to maintain, and also there was a fair amount of input from people that live in this district, and so I was very grateful for that because it really painted, I think, a clearer picture than we would otherwise have had. But that if we want to maintain the level of service that we have up there, there's got to be, something's got to give. And so I think this is necessary. I don't think it's as heavy of a burden as it would be to reduce the level of service, because we basically have two options: increase the revenues for this or reduce the level of services. And, there aren't many services in this area to begin with, so I think reducing that is not the right move. And so For what I've heard, this is from people that live in the area. This is fairly reasonable. We actually did kind of take a middle of the road approach. There were proposals for a higher fee to potentially take that money and invest in capital projects and other things in the future. But we decided not to recommend that. We went with the lower figure because we have to be considerate of the fact that, there are people in these communities on fixed incomes, and we don't want to place an undue burden on them. But we got to have ambulance services up there. So to me, that's the starting point. That's where this all comes from. We have to have these services there to protect people's lives. And so what's the lowest cost where we can accomplish that? And I think we've arrived at that number, or I'm confident that we've arrived at that number. So.
All right, thank you for that, and thank you guys for sitting on that and doing a thorough job. I know it's important, especially to the people up in Groveland. With that being said, I am going to open it up to public comment. If there's anybody in the room, I'm not seeing. Oh, I got a thumbs up. Anybody on Zoom? Public comment? Okay.
Cool. Thank you. Bill Caldera with Manteca Ambulance. I just wanted to give a little history also. I'm very much in support of the Finance Committee's agreement to level this out for another 5 years. It gives the people in the South County the opportunity to basically give us a report card of what we're doing. And the amount of money that comes from the enterprise fund, if you go back to 1981, a county administrator by the name of Dominic Salus built the county service area, and it includes all 2,300 square miles. So if there's not an ambulance in Groveland, we're going to be coming from Sonora to those calls. We're responsible, whoever's operating the ambulance, to go help people. The other thing that we did over a year ago, believe it or not, but I think next month, is the rates that we adjusted for the ambulance have a CPI inflator in them, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. The development that's going on in Groveland, I think that the calls will go up, but in my tenure, they don't go up very much. But that ambulance is so valuable by being there, and it also doesn't go on the out-of-county transfer. So it gives us a 911 car for the visitors 24/7. And we get busy down here, and they come here. They're part of the family and provide mutual aid. So we'd be losing ambulance service in Sonora with any cutbacks as well, and I just wanted to kind of share that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I'll look back to the board clerk. Do you have anybody on Zoom? I know we didn't a minute ago. Okay. All right, with that being said, I'm going to look to County Council because we are going to close the public hearing. Look at all that. All by myself. All right. With that being said, I'm going to bring it back to the board. Unless there's any final comments, I would look for a motion.
I'll move to adopt Resolution 2322, implementing an ambulance tax in the South County Ambulance Zone from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2028, subject to voter approval, and Resolution 24-22, placing the South County Ambulance Zone tax on the June 7th, 2022 ballot.
I'll second.
All right, so I have a first by half, a second by Goldenberg. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. So motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you,
and if you'll give me a moment,
Yeah.
This item that just came before you has been being worked on for over a year's time period, and I would like to acknowledge a few folks.
Sure.
Our Assistant County Administrator Eric Earhart and Deputy County Counsel Christopher Schmidt have been invaluable here, without a doubt. Debbie Batista from the Auditor's Controller Office, and Kanan Whitman from the Assessor Recorder's Office, our Public Health Department, and our analyst, Alex Parnell, and certainly our HHSA Fiscal Unit, and of course Bill Caldera from MDA. So I wanted to acknowledge those folks, but because this is a huge effort across many, many departments to get this to your board. Thank you.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. You know, we sit up here and we make decisions in a half hour on stuff that's been worked on for a year, and I think sometimes we forget how much work's involved And so thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate if more people did that in the future, because it is a lot of work and you guys deserve the credit. So thank you, and thank you to the staff. And I want to thank this board. It's 11:58, and I think we're doing a really good job of getting questions answered and things fleshed out before board meetings and making the important ones count. And I appreciate today that we're going to be done and get staff back to work and go about our business. So with that being said,
I want to thank you before you
sure
go further. I just want to thank the whole HHSA team and all the other partners, Chris, especially you, helping pull everything together and answer all the questions that I've had, and your continuing support for the education process that is before us. So thanks to the whole team.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. That being said, it's 1:59. I'm going to end it before the 2 o'clock hour. So that adjourns.